Ardmore has performed many due diligence projects and engagements over the last 30 years. We've seen many successful mergers come together, and we've seen others that have stopped prematurely at the due diligence stage. So through those processes, we've observed some variables that we want to consider. The first is sometimes in the buyer's enthusiasm to get a deal done, they often overpay. Second of all, buyers should always do a thorough due diligence on the target's largest asset on the balance sheet, which would be the loan portfolio, because a lot of times the public asset quality metrics that are available don't always paint the full picture of the underlying asset quality, as well as those often tend to be lagging indicators. And third, and equally as important as pricing and determining a credit mark, is culture. Um, Culture and risk appetite of the buyer and the seller coming together at integration of the merger is extremely important.
I think the overall message of the conference was pretty clear that the rationale to do a merger still holds true. As you mentioned, some of them, culture, acquiring talent, getting into new businesses and products, expanding markets are all still drivers of a deal. But one of the key messages that came across was the higher market rates impact on purchase accounting, the uncertain operating environment, more regulatory scrutiny, putting a damper on M&A for the last couple of years. And lastly, another key message was technology is our friend. And in order to meet the needs of changed customers' expectations as well as being operationally more efficient, technology has to be adopted. But overall, even in these uncertain times or disrupted markets, there's still plenty of opportunity for M&A.
I think the conference really kind of made a couple of key points, and that what is the direction you want to go in, and why do you want to go in that direction? Do you want to be acquired? Do you want to acquire another institution? And of course, there's a third choice, which is to stay profitable, safe, and independent. So there's three different directions you could go in. But I would urge anybody who has the opportunity to go to this conference, go to it. It was one of the best conferences I've ever attended. Um, the process has become a little more complicated over the last few years. I think there's around 98 mergers and acquisitions last year, and probably 10% more were canceled for various reasons. If you go back, I don't know, 2019, there were over 260 mergers and acquisitions. So it's been a really tough couple of years, I think, and I think that there's been a lot of downward pressure. I think that it'll slowly improve. I think, the environment in the market, the interest rates, different things are really affecting that market. One of the things that was said at the conference, and you can take this for however you want to interpret it, but I think it's around 4,600 banks or so in the country. And one of the comments was in the next 5 to 10 years that could decrease by up to 1,000 banks. Now that's pretty dramatic, but we'd have to see how that really develops. I think there's pent up demand, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will release until the market kind of validates that.
I still think the gap will still be wide for 24. As long as market interest rates stay high, um, I expect that gap to continue to be wide between buyers and sellers. Obviously, there are exceptions, as Brian had mentioned, at 75% a book. But if the math, social expectations, and business rationale are all aligned for both sides, along with the higher levels of capitals, deals will happen. However, buyers are still looking at the accounting metrics and trying to justify to the market and regulators that the current capital dilution will benefit from higher earnings accretion in the future. While sellers are looking at wanting to be compensated today for those benefits later on, right? Because it's accounting marks. Then throw in the potential for future asset quality issues because of the economic uncertainties that aren't currently being priced in because credit looks so good today. The gap is valid for both sides. I believe in the upcoming months, there will be more clarity in the environment to narrow those gaps in pricing. Until we get certainty, that gap will still stay wide. The
Yeah.
economics of the deal continues to make sense. You know, it's just getting a place where all stakeholders are happy, including the regulators. So